Gillard notes that if he grows up in this main family residence, he would enjoy many benefits, and they also have a few knights under their employment who would be able to teach him quite a lot of things. Eugene says that if he's ever adopted, he wants to learn from the strongest person, so if he becomes his son, can he learn from him? Gillard looks at him, and Eugene thinks that this is the perfect opportunity to see how strong the patriarch really is. Gillard smiles and notes that he could teach him, but if he really wants to learn from the strongest person here, there's someone else who fits that description perfectly. Eugene asks who it might be, and Gillard says that it's Keon, who has surpassed him for quite a while. He also asks if his father taught him anything about mana, and Eugene notes that he hasn't told him anything yet because he told him not to tell him anything yet, as he would have probably trained his mana without wanting to. Gillard notes that he's been training every day since he got here, without a skipped day. He thinks that mana stones are crystals of mana found within higher-ranked monsters, and it's customary to get started with mana with the help of a mana stone. However, the more efficient and big the mana stone is, the harder it is to obtain, and for a person to really get the most out of it, they also need someone capable. All of this would put a strain on Jahard's family, and that environment is just too lacking for Eugene's talent to truly shine. He sits down and thinks that he can't tell Eugene all of this and cause unwarranted hatred towards his family. So this will be discussed further with Jahard. He says that they discussed what he wants, and if that's okay, he would also like if they were to talk about things further. Eugene accepts this offer, and for a while, they talk about all sorts of things. Eugene decides to leave, and Gillard says that he should bring someone to escort him back, so he should wait a bit. Eugene notes that it's all right, as the annex is not far away, and he will head back alone to get some fresh air. While walking towards his accommodation, he notices the scent of perfume coming out from behind a corner, and it's quite potent. It's not moving, so someone must clearly be waiting for him. He continues to walk towards that place, and that's when Annasilla pops up and makes it seem like she wasn't stalking him all of this time, which he notices. He plays along and introduces himself. She says that she heard him and the patriarch have a discussion, but it must have been quite long, as she didn't notice he was still inside. Eugene asks if she wants to say something to him, and Annasilla thinks that this child is already daring and quite arrogant to boot. But it's not in the least surprising, as someone from a farm like him won against the main family, and also claimed victory in the succession ritual. He will surely experience limitless growth in the future, so it's better to be friendly to him than an enemy. Also, tying him down to the family with an arranged marriage using Seal is not a bad idea, and that's precisely why she had Seal stick around him. She wonders what they talked about, and Eugene notes that he shouldn't share the matters he discussed with the patriarch privately. She forces a smile and says that it's true, but she's not interrogating him here, as she wanted to say something to him herself. Eugene waits for what she wants to say, and she apologizes for how disrespectful Cayenne was, and also apologizes once again for not apologizing earlier. Eugene notes that there's no need for that, as he's already made peace with Cayenne. She says that he's quite mature for his age, and is also relieved that he thinks this way. She also made sure to give Cayenne a stern warning, so now she can only hope they get along in the future. Eugene says that of course they will get along well. They are a family that shares the same surname, right? Annasilla stares at him intently and thinks that he's not entirely wrong, but it just feels wrong to be basically called family by this child. He asks if he can leave, and she allows him to do so, noting that he should take a rest. While walking away, Eugene thinks that this is the same woman that tried to persecute him from the start because he was of a branch family, so he shouldn't get involved with her if it's not needed. 2 days later, Jahard arrives at the residence and looks around worrisomely. Did Eugene really win the success ritual? His only son won against the well-trained main family. He showed such talent since he was young, but he didn't have the ability to support that. He thought that at the ritual he would have to face reality, that the gap between the branch and main families is stark and clear. That's when Eugene calls for him and waves, with the patriarch next to him. He immediately rushes over and embraces him tightly. He begins crying and says that he's extremely proud to have someone like him as his son. Eugene smiles and says that he already told him he would bring good news, right? Jahard notes that he indeed said something like that and apologizes for not believing him earlier. He also introduces himself to the patriarch and Gillard does the same to him, also apologizing for the late invitation. Jihard shakes his hand and says that it's not an issue in the slightest, as he's just thankful he was invited in the first place. Gillard says that he doesn't want to take away family time, but could they both have a chat inside? Jihard agrees, and so he walks away. Gillard presents him with the offer of adoption and notes that if he were to adopt Eugene as his son, he would also be included in the main family. Jihard looks down for a second before getting up. He says that he's sorry if this comes across as disrespectful, but as his father, he can't help but worry about his son's future here. Gillard asks what kind of worries he has, and Jihard explains that he's worried the main family will harass Eugene. He already has 3 children, so if his son were adopted, he would be considered a freeloader. Gillard says that he understands, as he also doesn't want to limit Eugene's future. But the main family takes the legitimate bloodline extremely seriously, and he's almost sure they wouldn't just accept a child from a branch family so easily. And additionally, Eugene wouldn't be able to succeed in the patriarch position. But as long as Eugene doesn't become greedy, his talent will truly blossom if he were with the main family. As his child, Eugene would become closer to his other kids, and a better future would be made for him as a result. Jihard notes that all of this is correct, but he at least wants to talk with his son about this first. Eugene trains with his sword, and his father pops up, looking quite depressed. Eugene notes that the news must have been quite shocking, and he asks what that expression is about. Jihard looks at him and spots that he has Winned on his waist. So that must be what he chose from the family treasury. Even if he were to sell everything he ever owned, their family just wouldn't be able to afford that sword. He looks away and says that the patriarch wants to adopt him. Eugene says that he already knows that since he told him first and foremost. Jihard notes that he would like for him to become his child, as it is in his best interest for a better future. However, he may have to go through hard times later because of this. Eugene scratches his head and says that it may be so, but he already knows him. Eugene Lionheart would never back down. Jihard grabs him by the shoulders and says that he and his mother gave him that name, and he should never forget that. Eugene says that he knows, and that even if he were adopted, his real father would still be Jihard Lionheart. Jihard hugs him tightly and thinks that it's quite a pain that he's being adopted, but he would be gaining quite a lot, so it's quite worth it. He also has no intention to become patriarch, but nobody will really believe him. So the first and second wives will surely try to keep him in check. However, there are 2 ways to deal with complaints and hostility: ignore it outright, or destroy them. Gillard invited all the families of the children who underwent the ritual to the banquet, and it was mostly to bless the victory of a branch family, rather than focus on the shame brought upon the main family. Some people come up to Jihard and congratulate him on becoming part of the main family. Gargi's father also wants to give him their muscle growth potion if he's interested. Eugene looks at this and thinks it's best not to mingle there, as he would receive an annoying amount of attention. Annasilla and Kyan stand in a corner, and she pushes him to be more confident, as he will be compared to that person from now on, and when they look at him, they will only be reminded of the duel he lost. They will also laugh that a main family member, a direct descendant, lost the succession ritual to a branch child. Kyan looks down, and his mother says that it can't be helped, and he needs to feel this embarrassment but shouldn't despair, as even if people laugh and bash him, he's still her son and a direct descendant. She leans towards him and notes that Eugene can't become patriarch, but he shouldn't feel relieved about this, and instead try even harder, while also becoming friends with Eugene. Kyan is surprised by this, and asks if it's because they're siblings. Annasilla notes that this is exactly why he must treat him like a brother, so that he can help him later. Kyan agrees with his mother, but is a little shy and wonders how to become friends with him. While eating some cake and following him around, Seal notes that they are siblings now, so shouldn't he call her big sister by now? Eugene notes that she's only a few months older, and she says that she's the little sister because she was born seconds apart from Kyan. Eugene says that is entirely different, and while she nags him to do it, he thinks that he would rather bite his tongue and die than call this brat his big sister. In the Patriarch's office, Roberian says that he can't take Iode as his disciple unconditionally, as at the Red Magic Tower, summoning magic is the specialty, and he will be tested for aptitude on that. Iode asks what will happen if he does have an aptitude for that certain kind of magic, and Roberian says that it's good. But Aeroth still won't recognize the name Lionheart. Unless he's talented enough for him to disregard other aspiring mages entirely, he can't take him as a disciple. Iode agrees, and is quite saddened by this, but Roberian notes that since he's a longtime friend of the patriarchs, he will give him many opportunities. He will be protected from discrimination and held in the environment most suitable for his preferred magic type.